Nero, the emperor who burned Rome and blamed it on a new religion. He was 17 years old when he became the most powerful man on earth. He had his own mother murdered, kicked his pregnant wife to death, and stood accused for 2,000 years of playing music while his own capital city burned to the ground. Whether that specific detail is true or not, what happened to the people he blamed for the fire afterward was genuinely documented horror. Nero became Roman emperor in 54 AD at just 16 or 17 years old, following the suspicious death of his adoptive father, the Emperor Claudius, widely believed by ancient historians to have been poisoned by Nero's own mother, Agrippina, a formidable and ruthlessly ambitious woman who had spent years maneuvering her son into position to inherit the throne, fully expecting to rule through him as the true power behind an inexperienced young emperor. For the first several years of his reign, Nero did rely heavily on his mother's political guidance and that of his tutor, the philosopher Seneca, producing a period of relatively stable, competent governance that surprised many who had expected chaos from such a young ruler. This arrangement collapsed as Nero grew increasingly resentful of his mother's continued influence and control over his personal and political life. According to multiple ancient historians, Nero made several documented attempts to have Agrippina killed, including reportedly poisoning her on at least 3 separate occasions, poisoning she apparently survived through some combination of luck and, according to some accounts, prior immunity built up from her own well-documented habit of consuming small doses of poison herself as protection against exactly this kind of assassination attempt. When poison repeatedly failed, Nero allegedly commissioned a self-collapsing boat specifically designed to sink and drown her at sea, a plot that also failed when Agrippina, an experienced swimmer, survived the sinking and swam to shore. Finally, according to ancient sources, Nero simply sent soldiers to murder her directly, and Agrippina, upon realizing why the men had come, reportedly bared her abdomen and instructed them to strike her there first, in the specific place that had given birth to the son who had ordered her death. Nero's personal life continued along an increasingly disturbing trajectory in the years that followed. His second wife, Poppaea Sabina, died in 65 AD under circumstances ancient historians describe as Nero kicking her fatally in the abdomen during a violent argument while she was pregnant. Though some modern historians note this specific account, like several details of Nero's reign, comes primarily from later historians writing under subsequent emperors with clear political motivation to portray Nero's rule in the most damning light possible, meaning the precise, literal accuracy of certain specific incidents remains genuinely difficult to fully separate from politically motivated exaggeration, even while the broader pattern of documented cruelty across multiple independent sources remains difficult to dismiss entirely. The event most enduringly associated with Nero's reign occurred in July of 64 AD, when a massive fire broke out in Rome, ultimately burning for 6 days and destroying a significant portion of the city, including several of Rome's 14 administrative districts, entirely and severely damaging most of the rest. The popular legend that Nero played his fiddle while Rome burned is almost certainly false in its specific details, since the fiddle itself wouldn't be invented for well over 1,000 years, and Nero was reportedly at his villa outside the city when the fire began, subsequently returning to personally organize relief efforts, opening his own gardens to house displaced citizens, and reportedly funding emergency food distribution from his personal treasury, actions that stand in genuine contradiction to his popular reputation as an indifferent tyrant unmoved by his people's suffering during the disaster itself. What followed the fire, however, revealed the genuinely documented horrific cruelty for which Nero remains most infamous, facing widespread public suspicion that he himself may have deliberately started the fire, possibly to clear space for an ambitious new palace complex he subsequently built on the burned land. Nero needed a scapegoat to redirect public anger, And according to the Roman historian Tacitus, writing decades later but drawing on records and testimony from individuals who had lived through the actual events, Nero identified and blamed a relatively small, still poorly understood religious sect, Christians, for deliberately starting the fire. The resulting persecution, according to Tacitus's account, involved genuinely horrific, systematic public executions designed explicitly as spectacle and entertainment rather than simple judicial punishment. Christians were reportedly crucified, others were sewn into animal skins and set upon by dogs in public arenas, and some, according to Tacitus's specific disturbing account, were covered in tar or other flammable material and set alight to serve as human torches illuminating Nero's own private gardens during evening entertainment events he hosted for Roman elites, a level of calculated theatrical cruelty that historians studying the period considered genuinely well documented rather than later exaggeration, given Tacitus's own generally careful, source-based historical methodology and his personal lack of any particular sympathy toward Christianity itself, that might otherwise suggest motivated exaggeration in the persecuted group's favor. This persecution, while devastating to the specific individuals targeted, represented Rome's first documented large-scale, state-sponsored persecution of Christians specifically, establishing a pattern of intermittent Christian persecution across the Roman Empire that would continue with varying intensity for the following 2.5 centuries, until Christianity's eventual dramatic legalization and later adoption as the empire's official state religion under later emperors. Nero's increasingly erratic, cruel, and financially reckless rule, including massive personal spending on lavish building projects and public spectacles that severely strained imperial finances, eventually provoked widespread rebellion among Rome's military and political elite. In 68 AD, facing multiple provincial revolts and having lost the support of the Praetorian Guard specifically tasked with protecting him, Nero was declared a public enemy by the Roman Senate and fled the city. Rather than face capture and formal execution, Nero took his own life with the assistance of a private secretary, reportedly uttering the words, "What an artist dies in me," in his final moments, a statement historians have long debated as either genuine artistic self-regard or a final, telling example of the specific self-absorption that had characterized his entire reign. What makes Nero's reign endure as one of history's most infamous examples of imperial cruelty isn't simply the individual acts of documented violence, matricide, spousal abuse, and the systematic theatrical persecution of a religious minority scapegoated for a disaster he may or may not have actually caused, but the specific combination of genuine artistic ambition, deep personal instability, and absolute, unchecked political power that allowed a teenager thrust into the most powerful position in the ancient world to spend 14 years demonstrating exactly how, catastrophically, that combination could unfold, when nothing and no one remained capable of restraining it. If stories like this, where absolute power revealed exactly how far a single unstable ruler could go once nothing stood in his way, are exactly what you come here for, subscribe to The Grave Details, because history holds more stories like this than most people will ever know.